Dear friends, we start from the assumption that every human being during his life goes in search of happiness. In simple but scientific terms, I would like to explain to you how in this pursuit of happiness one can actually enter into traps that will cost blood and tears. We call these traps addictions. Addictions can be very varied. We talk about addiction to drugs, alcohol, smoking, sex, the internet, video games, compulsive shopping, gambling. In biological terms, I want to explain how this can happen. Expressing this in a very schematic way, our brain is made up of two large structures. There's a very deep internal structure, which is called the paleoencephalon. This is the primitive brain. Inside a structure called the limbic system, which controls what we call our affective and emotional life. Our feelings, emotions, think of our likes and dislikes. They are all integrated into this structure. Above all this, there is a second part of the brain, which is called the neoencephalon. This is the cerebral cortex, controlling the activity of the paleoencephalon in order to manage emotions, feelings, dislikes, like hate, anger, resentments, through a circuit which mainly involves the intellect and above all the will. When we are hungry, we go looking, for example, for a restaurant where you can eat very well. What drives me to search for this restaurant? It is exactly the limbic system that motivates me, because I may have to travel quite far to reach the desired restaurant. While I'm eating, this system provides a feeling of fulfillment, gratification, but at the same time, the cerebral cortex ensures that I don't eat or drink too much, because otherwise I would end up feeling bad. When these two systems are not in balance, like when the limbic system is dominant in controlling the cognitive gate, then what happens is that gratification is never achieved. Instead, there is a need for a stimulus that is always greater, creating compulsive search for this stimulus, in which the function of the control cortex is lost, and the function of searching for gratification dominates. This is the neurobiological mechanism of addiction. We call it the neurobiological prison, because getting out of this prison is anything but easy. Also keep in mind, friends, that many times we hear that man is an instinctual animal. Wrong, it is not so. From the neurobiological point of view, man, the human being, is a driven animal. He is governed by drives and not by instincts. What is the difference between the two? Simply that instinct is not governable. An animal that is attacked by another animal has only two options. Either it runs away, or if it is able to resist and perhaps win in the fight, it attacks. In man, in addition to these two options, there is a third option, which is incredibly human, and it is not to oppose evil, not to resist evil, to allow oneself to be attacked, or even forgive. But for the animal, this kind of behavior is impossible. When an animal is hungry, it must eat at all costs. When it is thirsty, it must drink at all costs. Man can skip to eat, he can sacrifice himself, he can give his food to another person. Here is the difference. Instinct is not governable, but the drive that characterizes man is governable. Try to think of the sacrifices that must be made to graduate with a degree, to win a gold medal in a competition, or to see a beautiful view over a mountain, which has been climbed with so much effort and so many sacrifices. This is the drive that pushes you to do something good and that we are able to govern. Here is the huge difference that exists between the animal and man. One last very important thing. Our brain completes its maturation at around 20-21 years of age. Up to then, it is a factory of constant movement. Try to think of how a 14, 15, 16-year-old can be subjected to very intense stimuli that then modify the brain's neuroplasticity, turning the brain into one that is dependent on those stimuli. All the more reason, therefore, to escape from stimuli that they can lead to an addiction, especially when it comes to teenagers or even younger. Addictions create neurobiological prisons from which, yes, you can get out, but with tears and blood. So this is addiction. It causes uncontrollable behaviors in the search for ever greater stimuli. It can start with cannabis and end up with heroin, or start with 5 cigarettes and end up with 60, or start with a somewhat sensational image and end up even with child pornography, going all the way to conduct that is criminal, illicit, illegal. Think of thefts, robberies, exploiting children for child pornography. We can really fall into hell through the pursuit of heaven and happiness, and end up in a hell which we are no longer able to get out from. And what I'm saying has all the more value from an educational point of view. For the new generations, our children and our grandchildren, we need to educate them that the pursuit of happiness, which is a very human feeling we all have and share, can be matured to the extent where it is possible to act for the good. True freedom is the ability to control oneself, an attitude of solidarity, of dedication to others, as a way to attain that happiness which we were looking for when we started out. True freedom means choosing the good, and choosing the good is the way to happiness.